Hello, my name's Richard.
And my name is Colin.
And this is We're Not Wizards. This is episode 15.
The Low Energy Adventure.
The Low Energy Adventure. And we're both suffering from low energy.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about low energy games. Games that don't take an awful lot of thinking. Potentially. No,
we're
games
not.
that start off slowly. Anyway, my word, no way.
The games you put in that list.
What do you mean? There's nothing wrong with the games that I put in that list. I thought
they're
they were
not low energy games.
They were yeah, sure. I suppose you're right. I guess we better say hello to everybody and tell them the reason that we do this is because there's quite simply
Well, I've looked.
Yeah.
I can't find any other podcasts of two middle-aged guys talking about board games. Never found any anywhere.
The quest continues.
I know.
Streaker.
I would have thought there would be more of us, but
no. We're a dying breed.
Yeah.
We are. We're a dying breed. And the other reason that we do this is because it's been too long. That's the reason that we do this.
Is it?
Well, it's been a while.
It's a couple of weeks, surely.
Well, the chatting to other people, but not having you on. That's been a while. It has been a reasonable amount of time.
I hate you, Richard.
I know that.
Yeah, I hate you.
I know that. And I'm comfortable with that.
Good.
I'm comfortable. I'm completely fine with that. We've been getting some games to the table. This is what people don't understand, is that every couple of weeks me and Colin get together and we try and play some games together. Try. And we've been relatively quite successful doing it, to be honest, over the last couple of weeks anyway. So which is fine. A little while ago we played Donning the Purple.
Yes, we did.
By Tompit Games.
Just the once.
But it was one of these things that was sitting on the shelf for a while.
Wow, yeah.
And I looked through the rulebook and I was like, oh no, I don't know about this rulebook. And then we eventually got it to the table.
I don't think we're playing it right.
I know. Do you know what? It's like when we put the photographs up on Twitter and then Petter went, oh, you've put that token in the wrong place.
Oh, we did play it wrong then.
We did play it wrong.
Okay.
It was absolutely fantastic. Donning the Purple is about it's about basically controlling the Roman Empire in the glory days, and you're kind of positioning yourself either as kind of like an emperor or as either the emperor's heir or one of the basically the heads of the Senate, and your role kind of changes as you go through the game with the idea that you try and get yourself some lovely victory points.
Yeah, it's almost a push your luck mechanic on how long you stay as that character.
Mm-hmm.
Which because you have the option of killing yourself.
Yeah,
so you can move character. Or of course one of the other players might kill your character. So
because you've not just got to worry about yourself. You've got to worry about the impending kind of hordes of barbarians who were trying to take over the land, and sometimes it's actually worthwhile kind of putting people or putting the land, the empire, in a terrible situation, and then effectively kind of stopping yourself from being the emperor and then letting the emperor have to deal with the ramifications.
We didn't have that in our game.
I think we were very civil. I think we were quite kind to each other. I reckon by like the third or fourth game, once you had a grasp of it, I think you would kind of potentially be at each other's throats depending on how you were kind of feeling about it.
We would have a better in and out of how to get one over on each other, because it seemed pointless when we were playing. There was only a couple crucial turns where it was like, right, well, I'm going to have to do this.
I think when things were pushed to the extreme, I think it was when the thing that you were it was the round at the end, it was the actions at the end when you had to feed the people. That was the one that was kind of like, made things kind of difficult. And that was when it was worthwhile during the round probably kind of changing the rules around and not necessarily a benefit, because being the Emperor kind of granted you additional actions, sometimes it was quite happy to kind of sit in the middle. What do you think of the looks?
That looked alright.
It did. It was kind of I think Tompit did a really good job. It was a Kickstarter when it came out, so Tompit did a very, very good job at the time of running a very successful campaign and putting it in front of the right people with the right game at the time. So they got a lot of traction on Kickstarter, I think, to the point where it did very, very well in terms of its funding. So I think when it arrived on people's doorsteps, it was the best version of the game. So there was little wooden swords, there was little blue swords to represent the barbarians. The chits were all really, really decent quality. The artwork was pretty good. So it was a really decent kind of well presented game. We did have a couple of fumbles in the rules, as we said, but I think that was just because when you're short of time, I think you try to get a game learned. And you try to kind of either do it like, do we read through the rule book and then play, or do we kind of play as we learn? And I reckon we kind of did a decent job with that. Would you play it again?
Yeah, probably play it again. I don't see why I wouldn't play it again. It's again, it's one of those games where you want to play it more than once so that you can get to see what the game's about. If you know what I mean, we didn't really get a really good feel with just that one playthrough.
No, I definitely want to try it again. I want to get it to the table a few times. There's an interesting solo mode on there that you can play, which is kind of interesting, and it seems to play very, very well in kind of like solo modes. A lot of Kickstarters nowadays, a solo mode seems to be quite an important thing. The most exciting thing though is Donning the Purple. They're coming back to Kickstarter because they have an expansion which is going to be coming out in the near future, which will bring details. I don't know if Petter's going to come back on the show. But I haven't asked him, to be perfectly not yet. I know. No, it's not. It's just, it's one of the things in the kind of the list thing they get to do. But it's definitely worthwhile checking out if you can find somebody to get it to the table. I had fun with what it was. I was quite impressed with the finish and the components.
Yeah, no.
To be honest,
it looked good. Yeah, it looked good. It played good. We all had fun around the table. There wasn't anyone sitting going, "I hate this."
I hate this. No. Definitely would do it again. I guess the next one is going from the past to going kind of even further back into the past, but also maybe mixing it with a bit of the future, was Dinogenics by Ninth Haven Games, which we played at the end of last week. Now, Dinogenics was an interesting game at the time because it came almost in the slipstream round about the same time as Dinosaur Island, which was the big, huge Dayglow refresher coloured extravaganza with multicoloured kind of dice, whereas Dinogenics in its impressions seems to be a much more somber,
it's
kind of realistic-y type of affair.
It's wanting to look very realistic in its artwork and depictions of everything. Yeah. And surprisingly has, because they were developed at two different times.
Yeah, they were.
The computer game Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Which is about running
a
few. The graphics that they came up with for their computer game and the graphics for the board game, very similar in aesthetics.
All right, okay.
Which is quite that they both went down that same train.
I just think it happens. I think it depends. I think Dinosaur Island kind of at the time went out its way to be this kind of day glow kind of colour fest, kind of rainbow thing.
It was big, cartoony.
Big kind of colour, in your face. And it was Kwanchai Moriana who was the head. He's the guy that was the art designer for Catacombs.
Yep.
So it was, that his kind of normal, kind of in your face type of style, which is lovely. I played Dinogenics a couple of times.
Mm-hmm. I've played it just the once.
What? Because you were somebody who you were coming to the table as kind of learning it for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think? What were your first kind of impressions with like components and stuff like that?
Oh, I liked it. You know, there's all the different meeples for the different types of dinosaur.
Mm-hmm.
It looked as though I was losing all the way through the game. And then I won, so that's always nice.
Yeah, we need to talk about that.
And I won not realising it was the last turn, and if I'd known it was the last turn, I would have done something the turn before and got even more points, but
yes, I know. Dinogenics, unlike... Because Dinosaur Island they're both kind of worker placements games, except to me Dinosaur Island is kind of more fractured in terms of how the turns kind of play out. With Dinosaur Island, you were dealing with kind of like your DNA resource is almost like a separate mini game. Then you were talking about actually creating your kind of dinosaurs. Then there was the facilities type of thing, and then you were dealing with the immediate danger.
Yeah.
You still kind of get the reap and the sow in Dinogenics. I found it a lot easier to pick up and understand than I did. I remember playing Dinosaur Island, and Scotty played it with us, and he almost tapped out within like the first kind of 10 minutes of playing because there was just so much kind of to it. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's one of these games. I think it's one of these games. Dinosaur Island was one of these games where you really need to maybe tell people to go and watch it's played.
The thing with it is, because it being worker placement, it's not really Scotty's forte of a game.
Yeah,
He doesn't like worker placement.
Yeah.
We sat him down and forced him to play worker placement games, and now he can come along to the club. Yeah.
Bye, Scotty. But Dinogenics, for the fact that when we played it, there was, quite a few of us hadn't played the game before.
Yeah, we made the mistake of not reading things.
Yes,
which,
as always,
is a classic.
Which is always what we do.
So for the first 3 turns of the game, we didn't realise if you went to one of the positions where your worker, you got 2 of those actions, and
even though it's printed on the board in big letters,
it was in big letters.
Take 2 actions, and we're just like, no, that's definitely pronounced one.
We'll
one
just
action.
do the one. We'll just do the one.
I liked. There was a little bit of competition. I liked how they decided that for that area that you did the 2 actions that. They guaranteed that everybody could kind of build, everybody could buy, everybody could trade on the market. Most other places there was like digging sites where you could get kind of like DNA. There was places where you could pick up. You could pick up kind of Scandal if you got certain cards, kind of thing like that.
Yeah.
But the main thing where you could like build additional pens, or you could buy kind of buildings for the market, or you could trade on the market and buy and sell DNA. You could do that kind of any time. There was enough spaces, even if you had all kind of five 5
it was
playing.
a wee bit annoying, because like you went down a risky path of a whole lot of meat-eating dinosaurs.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
And so at one point I was like, well, do I try and stop, because you've got to feed your dinosaurs.
Yeah,
you feed your dinosaurs goats.
Yeah, wooden meeple goats. Everything that's on this is represented by
all the different types of dinosaur and the goats. So it's like 6 different dinosaur meeples.
Yeah, I think that
the
might
goat
be. Yeah,
meeples.
yeah.
So that's about 7 different meeples plus your workmen who are
decent sized meeples.
Yeah.
But you were saying that there was only 3 spaces for the goats.
Yeah, but at no point were we able to deny you from getting enough food.
I think
it seemed really difficult to get to get a player in a position where food was going to be difficult for them to get.
I think it depended on. I played quite conservatively, because I actually only ended up having 4 dinosaurs in the entire park. I had 2 T-Rexes, a raptor, and an ankylosaurus. Whereas the idea is obviously you can get, depending on how you play the game, you can get like lots of little kind of dinosaurs, and they're all surrounded by little wooden fences, which are kind of meeples. There's a lot of this game which is physical representations. You're not playing with chits, you're actually playing with physical things. And somebody said they reminded them of Agricola in terms of little wooden pieces, almost like building up your fields and stuff like that. Never played the game myself, but if that's what they think it's like, then kind of fair enough. But that was I kind of like that. I wasn't. And even from your point of view, I wasn't 100% sure of somebody having the most reputation being the person that got the first pick every time. Because I think there was a point during the game where you were getting a bit frustrated, and it was a case of, how do I catch up here?
Well, I went down a pathway. I bought a whole lot of hotels. To jump into a complete mechanic we've not talked about so far. And being stuck in that last place, there was no point where I could then easily get out of being last place, and it seemed to be hurting me an awful lot being in last place, and it was a wee bit, this is a negative cycle and I can't see how to get out.
It was...
Even though I then, to throw that in the mud, I then went on to win, but then that's because I got 1 token, and I don't know if we played that token correctly or not.
Yeah, I have a lot of words about that particular token. Because your reputation is built around the dinosaurs that you build, and yet the longer scoring game for some things is built around the kind of the facilities that you build. So you'll have your own kind of board, your mini board, where you've got it split into 2 sides. You've got the side where you put your dinosaurs on. You've got the side where you build like your facilities and your hotels and stuff like that. So ideally what happens is you want to build hotels, you want to build facilities, you want to build hotels because every round visitors arrive and you get money. At the end of it, if there's no kind of issues with the park, if you don't get into some kind of rampage or hysteria or anything like that, then your visitors leave and you get victory points depending on the number of visitors that you have, which was cool. However, if you weren't building dinosaurs, then you didn't get the reputation. If you didn't get the reputation, you ended up further down the track. And even in the couple of times where I was like maybe 2nd or 3rd place, when you're playing when you're playing 4 players,
I think it's coming from a place of playing too many board games. In so many worker placement games, when you're in that scenario and you're last, then you normally get to either go first in the placement mechanics, or you get some other bonus to try and make up for the fact that you're falling behind.
Like viticulture.
Yeah. And it's odd. I don't know if there's something in the rules that we've not seen and not read right.
I think we went over it a couple of times.
That's reversed, if you know what I mean, or you're meant to be getting some bonus for being last. Because the other thing about your worker position is how many visitors to the park you get.
Yeah.
And there's also bonus visitors that you can get.
Yeah.
Which the person who's got the highest representation also gets the most of.
Yeah.
So it's like a win-win circle for being in the lead. And it's I was finding a wee bit, like, if you know what I mean, getting me a wee bit, I don't understand this, if you know what I mean.
I can see the frustration. I was still really kind of enjoying it, and I started to find myself kind of planning for what was happening next and where I was going, and trying to plan 2 or 3 moves ahead, which is, I think that's always interesting when a game gets you to start planning ahead so quickly after you started playing it, that it shows it's kind of doing some decent things. I will not ever forgive you, Richard, who designed the game, Mr. Keane, for putting in the flipping DNA archive building that basically says at the end of the game, if you've got the DNA archive thing, you get like a victory point for every single dinosaur that was in the boneyard. The boneyard basically is, there's a market, and is basically dinosaurs that are being created go to the boneyard, and dinosaurs that move off the kind of the sale track go into the boneyard. And it's got an interesting thing with DNA that, for instance, every card, like for instance, the Brachiosaurus, it's got a number 4 up the top right hand side, which means in order to create that dinosaur, you've got to have 4 of the same card. So it's like a set collection kind of resource management, because you're taking almost like a risk, or taking your best chance picking up kind of cards from the dig sites, because you might get the cards that you want or you might not. Or do you sell some of them on and then buy back the ones that you actually kind of need? Which I thought was kind of cool. I thought that kind of potentially kind of worked quite well for me.
Obviously, like the guys that were playing, they were able to play a lot more dinosaurs than I was able to play.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Not entirely sure what I was doing. It was meaning I wasn't getting the dinosaurs.
I don't know. I think
it was all like 2 cost dinosaurs that I was playing, and like.
I think if you're playing, depending on the size of fences that you need, because every dinosaur needs a certain size of fence. Sometimes you can be caught with building the small containments for the smaller dinosaurs, and then obviously if you try to build the smaller ones, then building like a T-Rex. To build a T-Rex one, for the one I had, that only cost me, at the time it only cost me like 6 fence. So I was able to get that quite simply. Whereas obviously if you've got a grid, it can fairly kind of ramp up. But the DNA archive, I was never ever played a game where I was approaching a sense of jubilation, thinking that I'd actually beaten you in the first game that we played together, only to find that when we kind of totted up the score, there was like 1 point in it, or we were kind of like equal steadings.
Did you not wonder why I kept on? Because there's 2 ways of getting DNA. There's 2 worker placement zones where you can get DNA, and one is called the Alpha site.
I know.
And that just gives you 2 cards.
Yes.
And then there's the Beta site, which means you draw 3 cards, but you pick one, and then you put 2 into the
boneyard.
So I was doing that each round, and going,
I wasn't catching on because I was too busy worried about folk who were going to block my way for the goats. I played solo play for Dinogenics, because they've actually what Richard Keane's done he's actually included solo play scenarios. So it is a case that you're getting your own board and you have to deal with a certain prefabricated kind of situation. Dinogenics, again, is something that is coming back to Kickstarter next. I believe it's going to be next month, into the middle to the end of July, with its first expansion. Now, as far as Dinogenics go, I've enjoyed my time with it, and I would certainly kind of play it again. I would be interested to see how the mechanics work without certain cards in it, certain things in it. There's still the corrupted T-Rex that we'd have to bring in the game as well.
Totally.
So we've got a couple of playthroughs. It seems relatively... We managed to get, like, yourself and Steve kind of playing it relatively quickly. And I'd like to see how it pans out over
Kieran
a couple of
was
years.
up to speed with it as well.
Yeah,
so,
it kind of worked.
All four of us were.
Yeah, it worked kind of well. So I kind of like that. So, and the only other thing that seems to be getting played a lot, which I'm not necessarily playing, which everyone else is playing, is Root, and everybody's talked about Root all the time, and I'm gonna discuss that another time.
Still only played it twice.
People seem to be, every time I'm at the games club, it seems to be somebody kind of fingers it and says, "Oh, can I have a shot of that?" And the next thing I know, it's kind of gone.
It's because the guys know the game now.
Yeah, and they like kind of playing it.
They want to play game they know.
Exactly. Games we'd like to get off the shelf. Is there anything in particular, Mr. Colin, that you would like to get on the table and have a good shot at?
Dear me. Gloomhaven. I still own Gloomhaven.
You still do you? Because I was looking at the shed at the end of the garden, and it was mysteriously... I didn't realise that Isaac Childress was doing sheds, and then I realised you'd stuck a roof on your Gloomhaven. It's kind of like, it's almost turned into kind of Only Fools and Horses. This time next year we'll play... You and me, Rodney, will play Gloomhaven.
You know what? I've bought a wooden insert for it.
I saw it.
So it's lovely.
It's beautiful.
It all unpacks beautifully now.
It's wonderful.
And I've got some delicious playmats from a Kickstarter for it as well. So
when are we going to play it?
Exactly.
You're prepared.
You know,
it's like you have.
When the next time I'm going to be on an episode.
Let's not go there just yet. It's not the end of this.
Sometime in the near or far future.
Well, let's face it. If the way it's going at the moment, you've got plenty of time to play Gloomhaven.
Well, I'm retiring in about 30 years' time. So.
Well, there you go. Well, we can work.
There we go.
And then you can do that as well as polishing your lathe.
Exactly
at the same time. I would like, riffing off the back of Root, I would like to get... I do have Vast, which is Root's older brother, which was the first asymmetrical game that Leader Games did, which is basically you play the role as either the dragon, a knight, some goblins, or the actual cave itself.
Okay.
So it's a pure kind of asymmetrical type game where you've got to basically, if you're the cave, you've got to collapse the cave on everybody. If you're the dragon, you've got to escape. If you're the goblin, I think you've got to kill everybody else. If you're the knight, you've got to kill the dragon. And at the time, everybody went, "Whee!" Vast. And it's actually had a couple of expansions and stuff like that. I'd be really interested in getting it to the table. It also seems ones that's got potentially a good kind of solo game, because the sides are asymmetrical and because you're controlled by what you could do. There's potentiality for you to play it as a single player game, and enjoy the different factions, which is kind of interesting. The other game I'd like to get to the table is Heroes of Land, Air and Sea, which is a huge trip. I think it's a explore, exterminate, extrapolate, Eggs Benedict. Yeah, pretty much. And I'd be interested to get that kind of sitting in my cupboard since I got it in Aircon, and I blame utterly Dan Hughes
That's a convention. It isn't something that will keep you cold.
I'm hoping that the audience realise what Aircon is, but I don't know, because, there's quite a few American people that are kind of doing it. Yeah.
That would be the convention in Ayrshire.
It's not. It's Harrogate. You're going to just trick them to get them to go to Ayrshire as well. They're going to be turning up going, right, I'm here for the convention. Kind of thing. And their mock kind of strange Irish American type of voice. Give it a kick is when we talk a little bit about the Kickstarters.
I've been in a Kickstarter.
Have you? What Kickstarter was that?
It was the one about the ants, and I've forgotten its name already.
Was it March of the Ants or something like that?
Yes, that's the one.
Was it good?
I don't know, it's not arrived yet.
So is this going to be...
It was a good Kickstarter, we're all hyped for it.
We're all really, really excited.
We're all screaming like,
wait,
dude, shut up and take our money.
Yeah, come on, here you go. Have your ants, and have you got other insects and stuff like that as well? Have you been going on Kickstarter that much? Or do you not? Is it just not an interest?
No, well, you go through cycles of, I'll join this Kickstarter, and then you go in a wee trough because you're like, well, these things I've joined up for aren't in my possession yet. And I go through a cycle of, I'll maybe join one or two.
Yes.
And then I'll wait for them to arrive.
Yes.
And then play around with them, and then I'll go back to Kickstarter and I'll look at a few more games, and then...
I'm trying to... Which
I know is not the good way, because there's bound to be amazing stuff that I'm missing, but my bank is also going, ha-ha! Oh, yes. We can't give you an overdraft payment because you've not spent all your money.
We're really glad that you didn't bother with this Kickstarter. You get a letter from the bank to say thank you for not backing this Kickstarter. Go away, get yourself some food or stuff like that, or or travelling expenses.
Only when the last tree is cut down, you will realise you cannot eat meeples.
There's a whole question about that which everybody skirts around. You know what I mean? Environmental board gaming. But anyway, that's another thing altogether. I've kind of been off, not off Kickstarter, but I've kind of not been... Well. No, I've been observing more and backing less. There are a few things that are coming up. There are a few things that we've spoken about. There are a few things that we have covered or we are covering that still have some time left, which potentially need a look. And as we say with everything with Kickstarter, you may think they're wonderful, you may think they're fantastic, but always make sure you do a little bit of checking, because there have been, as with everything, there's always risks involved with getting involved in any kind of crowdfunding projects.
You've got to remember, you're funding the idea, and then you're putting it in the trust of whether those guys can fulfill the idea or not. Yeah,
well, on the other side of it, there's a lot of people that are kind of using it as, we have an idea, we have everything printed, we have everything ready, if you can just kind of pre-order it, there's that kind of thing as well. But that is a completely different...
There are people using it as an advertisement space, but there are the other guys who aren't, and genuinely have got an idea, and it's the first time they've ever done anything like this, and before they know it, they've blown all the money on champagne and gluten-free biscuits.
All right, don't look at me like that. It was only the one pack of biscuits, thank you very, very much. First up, we have Bellum, which is a monochromatic strategy card game for 2 players, where you're basically playing off against each other to try and destroy each other's keep. It's by Van Hammock Games. I wrote a quick kind of sideways glance at it and thought it was, okay. There's you read the kind of my first thoughts on it. It's currently got about a week left. It is about just over 50% of the funding. And this is the second time on Kickstarter, so hopefully I'll get a push. It seems to be the case that having 8 days and still having a lot of your funding to go doesn't matter, because a lot of these campaigns seem to kind of finish their funding in a massive blast in the last 2 days. because they get their
It
48.
does seem to be the Kickstarter is the first 48 hours and the last 48 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything in between is a slow trickle.
I'm just wondering why people don't run Kickstarters for 4 days and just say, there you go. Because that wouldn't work. That's why.
It wouldn't work for the guys that wait for the last 48 hours.
Because then when would they wait for the last 40? Will they be halfway
But
through
then
and waiting?
you get people that are like,
They need
you
to
know, reward tier sort of hunters, and they're waiting for it to reach a certain level, and all right, it's got enough stuff to warrant me.
Jumping in. Definitely go and check out the written piece that I wrote, because I wrote some words about Bellum, and I had fun with it. I'll just say, I had fun with it. Me and my boy. The next one is Redwell Games. Good old Tom, Dr. Tom Lovewell at Redwell Games. He's got Six Gun Showdown, which is currently on Kickstarter. It's got about 10 days left. He is well over his 50% funding. He's approaching about 70-80%. Mm-hmm. It's a very, very small draw cards against your opponent. Mm-hmm. Very few cards. It's got a dice. The idea is that you play a card to allow you to draw against your opponent. Whoever touches the card first. It's kind of interesting. Tom's a good guy. I like Tom.
Excellent.
And yeah, this seems like a decent game. Couple of shout outs, because we'd like to shout out people, because we haven't shouted. I don't shout out. I'm terrible. I don't shout out anybody.
No?
On the show, no. I'm a disgrace.
Oh my God.
It's like, I just expect people to go out there and tell everybody about not being a wizard.
I don't even know you, Richard.
I
don't even know you.
It's probably true. We'll just sit in silence and contemplate that. Or we could tell these lovely people about some other people they should maybe be listening to if they're considering listening to people that they should be listening to. Okay. We've got Brainwaves, Ian and Jamie talking about podcasts, have occasional guests.
They talk about podcasts.
They talk about board games, but they talk about board games on a podcast and have occasional guests. We've got
I've never heard of anyone else talking about board games.
I'm just trying to bring them in so you understand. There's a couple of other people here. You've got Unlucky Frog with Ben, Josh, Charlotte, and they seem to be growing the team in a number of ways. Unlucky Frog, a fantastic little group. They're based over on the West Coast in Glasgow, and they talk about
West Coast. But we're East Coast.
I know. Respect.
Sharks and the Jets.
Bonk. Good fun. They like their Games Workshop, and Ben's painting is absolutely out of this world. I think he's called I think it's Oberon on Instagram. I think he's or Oberal. I'll need to check it. I'll put it in the show notes. But his stuff's absolutely fantastic. The apocalypse wouldn't be the apocalypse without 5 days for 5 games for Doomsday, which is Ben Maddox, who's interviewing some of the biggest names. He's just had Richard Garfield on the show. Me and him are up on like a kind of a competition now to see who can get the best guests. Do you know who's winning? He is every time, without a doubt. He's friggin' Richard Garfield, for goodness sake. I ain't got nobody with that. I can't match you with that. What are you doing, Ben? Anyway, we've got the boys over in the West Coast, not of Scotland, but in America, which is your board game barrage, which is the decidedly average Colin, the rather okay Mark, and then there's Neelan, who's my current favourite, and they are 3 people who have lots of opinions about board games and pretend they're tanks. I know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just one of these things.
I'll be the Challenger 2, designed to kill the Abrahams.
That's just too technical and everybody's going to be what? Google it. Alright, that's all I'm going to say. Still got the Assault Report with Kay and Jesse, who talk about all things geeky, all things nerdy, a lot of Final Fantasy 14 and anything that takes their interest. New podcast I've been listening to, Death by Monsters, which is by Matthew Jude. He is talking, his topic on the first episode is about Bigfoot. It's thoroughly entertaining. Matthew Jude does This Game's Broken. This is a podcast that you should be listening to just because it's good fun. And it's not board games or tabletop related. It's a lot of fun. And last but no means least, I cannot miss these people out because I'm talking Daniels and Mike Delisio from Sporadically Bored, who are still rocking and rolling, and they're almost catching up to the same number of episodes that I do in a week. Who would have thought?
Same amount of episodes as you do in a week.
Yeah.
15.
I don't do 15. Why does everybody think I do 15 episodes in a week? That's just an actual nonsense. Right, we asked the question. Me and Colin are recording tonight for the first time in ages and wondering if you have any questions for us. Hashtag Ask a Wizard. I don't know how that happened. Tabletop Games blog at Tabletop Games bleh asks, obvious question, which one of you is the wizard?
Well, we're not wizards.
We're not wizards,
that's
obviously.
The whole
That's
point.
the whole point of the... What's wrong with you?
I've never heard the like.
I know. Troll of today, Steve McGilvray, says, who's Colin?
He's Colin, dear me.
I know, exactly.
He's calling you.
I know. Rune Sky Game says, Colin, I haven't heard you since the time I did a lot of scrolling backwards and listened to you in episode 1. What have you been up to? Training to be a wizard? I mean...
Well, I suppose the secret's out the bag then, isn't it?
Are you training to be a wizard? Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
No, it's called work, unfortunately.
It's called work. It's called other things. It's called sorting stuff out, basically. And that's how we kind of roll. They're quite disappointing questions, aren't they? I mean, to be honest, I was expecting better, but I suppose we haven't asked questions in so long. Do you know what? Miss Nick, because Nick would usually say, yes.
Yes.
He's not even there anymore.
To which I would reply, Twitter says no.
Twitter says no. It is time to go. Already? Time has gone fast. Time has gone quick. It is, yes, it is that time already. Where can you find us? Where can we find us on the internet webs? Where do we exist on the internet webs? Well, Twitter is...
I don't have a Twitter.
We're Not Wizards.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That would be it.
Okay, where's the website?
Podbean?
We're Not Wizards.podbean.com or We're Not Wizards.com or We're Not Wizards.blogspot.com. Yeah.
I'm good at this game.
You are good at this game. You can find us on Instagram, which is...
You're a wizard, Harry.
No. We're Not Wizards. My word. I just can't believe it. You can email us, which is podcast@we'renotwizards.com. Mm-hmm. You can find us on all the podcast catchers, which have got the word pod, the word cast in them.
Okay.
And you can find us on Spotify as well, which has got neither pod.
Spotify now?
Yes, we're on Spotify. Yeah.
I listen to it on that all the time.
I know that. That's where all the 3 streams on Spotify come from. Is you listening 3 times. Mm-hmm.
Are we on Deezer?
Do you know what? I think I applied for them and they said no because they don't like wizards. And then I tried to explain that we weren't wizards, but they weren't having any of it.
Good. I don't like Deezer.
That's fine. Neither do I. It's rubbish platform. And you can find us on all the all the podcast patches if you want to learn me talk how to. If you like what you've listened to tonight, then there's a couple of things you can do. You can tell somebody else, even if you don't like them, especially if you don't like them, put them through 45 minutes of absolute torture, and then tell them they deserve it. The other thing that you can do is you can go to Apple Podcasts or whatever it is just now, or whatever it might be, because apparently they're splitting it up into separate apps. But you can drop us a subscription, and if you like us an awful lot more, you can leave us a rating or a review. If you are going to be leaving us a rating or review, don't give us
5 points.
No, don't give us...
10 points.
Yes, because it
will expand our minds.
makes us big-headed.
Alright.
Okay.
I'm not good at charades.
No,
Come
okay.
on.
And the next one, don't give us 1 star because it'll make us...
Eat onions and rubber eyes.
Cry.
Yes, that's it.
Give us 5 because it's in the middle and it's a bit average.
We're
just a little bit decidedly average. Ah, dear. It's been so... Do you know it's been so long? Should we have a song?
No.
Can we have a song?
No.
Why not?
No.
Why not? I've got my glass. Have you got a glass? Right, anyway. So, I guess the thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from Colin. Say goodbye, Colin.
Goodbye, Colin.
And it's a goodbye from me. Goodbye. Remember, stay safe. Why are you looking at me like that? Stay safe, roll 6s. Make something awful. But until the next time, goodbye. 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 Stop shaking your head like that. I thought that was alright. Don't like it, you can go.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.